Hi Digital Arts. We're going to be talking about the layers palette and working with layers today. So make sure you grab your note page, and we're going to be looking at the palette itself and the icons. So you're going to actually label and identify what each one is. So in Pixlr, here's the layer palette right here. A is your toggle layer settings. What that does is basically can change the opacity of your layer. Opacity basically means how see-through or solid something is. The mode basically talks about how or adjusts how each layer appears on top of each other. So don't worry about it for right now. Just make sure to write it down. B is adding a layer mask. What that does is it basically acts as a stencil. And again, we'll be using this later. Layer styles is your opportunity to add a drop shadow, a glow to a layer, anything like that. D is you're adding a new layer. So anytime you want to add one, that's where you go. And say you don't want that layer, that's where E would be to delete your layer. F is visibility. So right here, this layer right now has a padlock on it. That means that it is locked so that you don't accidentally throw it away or do something accidentally to it that you don't want. But you can unlock it by double clicking, and then that gives a check mark, which is the visibility. If you uncheck that box, you can see that your bacon now, or my image, disappears. It doesn't mean it's gone all the way. It just means that you've made it so that you can't see it at the moment, which is great for if you're doing a project and you don't know if you want that layer or not. It's a good thing to have. So we're going to go to Google Classroom, and you should have downloaded all of the images from the Stacked Sandwich project. And I'm not going to go over how to cut each image out because we already covered that when we talked about selections. But so if you forgot something, just go right back to that video and you can get a refresher. So open a new image. We're going to create a 1600 by 1200 workspace, transparent background, hit OK. I'm just going to go ahead and cut everything out, and then we're going to deal with it later. When you use the wand tool, you notice probably where it said tolerance. The thing about the tolerance is if you set the number down to, like, say 5, and you select, you notice that it's not right up against the edge of the item. It's being really, really picky and grabbing any of the subtle colors that are even in the white. So sometimes if you notice that it's not right up against the edge, just make the tolerance number higher and it goes a little bit closer in. So invert selection so that I have the lettuce. And each time I'm going to go ahead and close the window I don't need anymore just to clean up my space. Don't forget to add to your selection if you need to, like here where it didn't grab everything right at once. And if I'm going a little too fast on some of this, remember you can always rewind or make it go slower or ask me a question. All right, so I have all the pieces, basic pieces actually, that I wanted you to have, except for the plate. All right, now I have the basic pieces. Now, obviously, you don't want your sandwich under the plate. That does not make any sense. So let me show you what you're going to do. you can actually pull your layers palette to the side so you can see everything. I want my plate on the bottom, so I'm going to move it. Layer 0 is your background, so obviously you want your plate on top of that. What else do I want? I want my sandwich on top of my plate first, then the lettuce, then the tomato, then the bacon. That sounds good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and free transform each thing to resize the way I want it to be. Don't fill the plate all the way to the edge. Give it a little bit of room. You never know what you want to put later on. You also probably notice, some of you, if you work with shortcuts, that the free transform shortcut is probably the only one that does not work. So unfortunately, you are going to have to access free transform the old way. Actually, I think I'm happy with the size of the lettuce. All right, so you can actually have 2 pieces of tomato, 3 pieces of lettuce. I don't like just one bacon on my sandwich. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to show you how to duplicate some of these. So let's go ahead and add more lettuce. You just right click on the layer that you want to duplicate, click duplicate layer, and you can free transform and actually turn it. Just make your mouse, if you drag your mouse without clicking anything up into the corner of the free transform box, you'll notice that lovely little curved arrow that tells you you can now turn your item. And each time I'm just pressing the enter key once I have it the way I want. I'm going to give myself another piece of bacon. So you see where it says copy, that's each time you create a new layer, it will make a copy. For the sake of keeping everything nice and neat, you also want to probably name your layers. That way, sometimes when you're working with lots of layers, even more than these, it's hard to remember where everything is. So to rename a layer, you just double click on the current name, and then you can name all of your layers so that they are easier to find later on, and so on. So now we're pretty much done with the plate, but I actually want you to have a little bit of fun with this and add some other things to it. So you want a bowl of fruit there, you want a plate of French fries, whatever you want to do. But just keep in mind that you are looking at the top side of the plate. So you don't want, for example, a can of soda where you're looking at the side of it. That wouldn't make any sense. Oops. So just make sure to cut it as close as you can. You're going to go ahead and move it over. All right, now to make this look a little realistic, we're going to add some shadows. So the only things we're going to add a shadow to are the can. Definitely would add a shadow. So we're going to go down here to layer styles, and I'm going to pull this over to the side so you can see what happens. You don't want to just check the box. You actually want to click on the word. Not only will it check the box for you, but it will give you even more options, like changing the angle of your shadow, how far the distance is for the shadow, and the size. So add a shadow to your plate. You're pretty much done from there. Save this as sandwich. Make sure to add it into Google Classroom, and you're done. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.